got me. I'm not in charge of the... You got the preacher, too.
Amen.
I don't want to have to compete. He'll win. You got me down? Yeah. I think the gain is still high. But anyway, that's up to you. Sound like you hit the distortion pedal on me. Good morning, wife. Thanks for showing up on time.
Amen.
Well, we're probably going to have to go out to dinner now. Good morning, everyone. We're going to be back in Mark chapter 8. Lord willing, this is our last week in Mark chapter 8. Feel like we're getting somewhere. Before we get started, Brother Maddox, it's good to see you. Would you open us in a word of prayer this morning? Every word of the Word of God is, ready for this? The Word of God. I've been listening to Kamala Harris. Which means not one is more important than the other. However, truth be told, by the time Sunday rolls around, Brother Ivy, whatever passage we're studying seems to me to be the most important passage of our time. Now, I don't go back and listen to myself, so I really don't know. But Junior, I think I resist saying that, although I think it, but I'm not going to resist saying it this morning. All of the book of Mark so far, from verse 1:1 all the way up to where we are in Mark, leads to this passage we're going to look at this morning. It is the crescendo of these first 8 chapters. And it really asks the question, which is the most important question for every person ever born on this earth. And that is, what do you think of Christ? And that's the question we're going to look at this morning. A little bit. Mark chapter 8, verse 29. We'll read to the end of the chapter, and then we'll jump in here. We'll back up to verse 27. And Jesus went out and his disciples into the towns of Caesarea Philippi. By the way, he asked his disciples, saying unto them, Whom do men say that I am? And they answered, John the Baptist, but some say Elias, and others, one of the prophets. And he saith unto them, and here's where the question matters, Whom say ye that I am? And Peter answereth and saith unto him, Thou art the Christ. And he charged them that they should tell no man of him. And he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things. Now, I don't know what Bible you have, but in most Bibles, if there's notes or something, you're going to find that there's a break at verse 30, in between verse 30 and 31. 2 reasons. One, because he's just talking to the disciples alone, and now you're going to see he's going to be talking to the disciples and others. He's going to call others to them. But I think we'll see that there's another reason as well. Jesus, verse 31, and he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things. And here's why. Okay. Brother Mike, if I find a way to pick on you this morning just because you were so mean to me in the hallway, I'm letting you know, I'm bringing it up there. And then, you can say, you can use that as an illustration of what I didn't do based on the lesson. But you get to that verse, and you get to verse 30, Peter's just starting to get it. Yeah. All right, here's the question. Who do you say that I am? Is there a better answer? Is there a better answer? There's only one answer. Any other answer is wrong. The only answer is thou art the Christ. You're the Messiah. You're the anointed one. You are God incarnate. That's what he said. I mean, right now, done deal. It's over. Be happy. But it doesn't end there. And that's why we had the break between 30 and 31. Because, Junior, there was a day somebody asked me that question, and you know what I said? He's the Christ. He's the anointed one. I was 5. It wasn't over. It's still a struggle every single day. And part of the reason it's a struggle is because of what we're about to read. And that just doesn't make sense to us. Verse 31. He begins to teach them, thou art the Christ, you're the Messiah, you're the Son of Man. That's what he said right here. And he began to teach them, saying that the Son of Man, you know who the Son of Man is? Okay, the word Messiah comes from Daniel chapter 9. Okay, the Son of Man is talked about in Daniel chapter 7. In Daniel chapter 7, you see the Son of Man who's going to come back, and he's going to rule over everything. In Daniel chapter 9, you see that everything gets fixed. When he says, I'm the Son of Man, which, by the way, is his favorite title for himself. His favorite title is Son of Man. Now, some people will read this, Brother Ivy, they just want to argue. You know some of them people who just like to argue? Yes, you know them very well. Well, some people who just want to argue, they'll look in the mirror and they say, right, Son of Man. He's not claiming to be God. You know what he's saying? He says, Son of Man. Every person ever born is Son of Man. We're born of Adam. We're son of Adam. And of course, he's the Son of Man because he left heaven, emptied himself, and became like a man. Okay? But he's not claiming to be a human. And how do you know that? Because in verse 38 of this same chapter, he says, when I come back with my Father's glory and the holy angels. And you know what that's talking about? That's talking about the passage in Daniel where he says, the Son of Man. There's one like unto the Son of Man who comes on a cloud and goes and stands face to face in front of the Ancient of Days. In this very passage, if anybody, Brother Kevin, he never claimed to be God. In this passage, you know what he says? He says, I am the one. I'm the promised one. I'm the anointed one. I'm King of Kings. I'm the one capable of standing in heaven face to face in front of the Ancient of Days. I mean, a lot of stuff is going on right here. But here's where it just gets this place where it doesn't make sense to me. So far, Brother Ivy, if you were up here doing this, I'd be happy because I wouldn't be sweating. And I'd be back there right now, up to this point, I would be celebrating. I'd be holding in, trying to just take over and just agreeing with you all the way along. And just, it would be hard. But then it gets to this point, and he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things. Now here is where things start to go off a little bit. Because Jesus says to Peter, who do you say that I am? Well, thou the anointed one. You're the king. You're the one spoken of. You're the Messiah. That's who you are. And Jesus seems to accept it. He doesn't say, no. He doesn't say he's wrong. He accepts it. He goes on. Yep, you're right. I am the king. But now, right here in verse 31, hence the division. Brother Mike, he's saying, I am the king. You were right. But I'm not the king like you think. I'm not the king that's going to Jerusalem to sit on a throne. I am a king who's going for a cross. And that is earth-shattering. And then, that's not all that he says. He began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected of the elders and of the chief priests and scribes and be killed. There you go. Brother Hank, we've had this discussion, so I'm just going to, we'll have this discussion again. That way, if I'm offensive to anybody, they can't get offended because I'm just talking to you. Okay. But I've been in church a long time, and so I've gone to church long enough to hear people get irate when we sing hymns that have anything to do with man killing Jesus, man taking his blood, man. We want to change all the words to these hymns. No, I know why. Because there's a verse that says, No man takes my life, but I lay it down. Brother Moria, that is 100% true. You know what you can set that off with? This verse right here that says that I have to go to the cross and be killed. Junior, here. No, this is where I step out and give you just my opinion, why this bothers me so much. Because, you know, when we talk about he lays down his life. Here, I might get grouchy if I'm talking to you. Let me talk to the mic. He's older. I have to be more respectful. I don't want to crush him. So here's where it bothers me, Brother Mike. You see, I think we concentrate way too much on Jesus' part in this aspect, because you know what we don't want to look at? We don't want to look at our part.
Yeah, that's good.
So if we spend all our time saying, he laid down his life for me, he loves me, I'm not mocking it. That's amazing. And we should spend our time there. But you know what we don't have to look at? I was his enemy. I was the sinner. I rejected him. I was driving the nails. I put him on the cross. I voted for Barabbas.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't want to look at that. So we argue and take that part out. But the Bible has that part in. But my Mike, when I argue and say, song leader, we need to change that word, I feel so spiritual about myself. I definitely don't feel like a sinner. I definitely don't feel like the one driving the nails. Anyway, so Brother Hank, you know that's how I feel about that thing. Now, and be killed. I'm already thinking about where I got to skip. So Jesus is okay here. He accepts the fact that he's the anointed one. But he says the anointed one must suffer. Well, Ivy, you and I, we're like, right here, this upsets Peter to the point that he rebukes Jesus. This is not you and I saying, preacher, he isn't here. This is not you and I saying, Brother Steve, can I talk to you after service? I'm not sure I agree with that. Okay, this word rebuke is the same exact word that is used when Jesus rebukes the demons. Peter was not, I don't understand. Peter hears the Messiah, the anointed one. You accept that's who you are, but you're going to come, you're going to suffer, and you're going to die. And Peter is so out of his mind that he rebukes the one who calmed the winds. This makes no sense. The idea that the Son of Man would come and suffer. It's not the way it's supposed to happen. Nope, stop. No, you don't get it. You come to defeat injustice, and you destroy all evil, and you make it all right, and you rule from the throne, and you sit there in Jerusalem. That's how things has to happen. And he's saying, no. I am coming. I am going to Jerusalem. I am going to make all the injustice just. I am going to destroy evil. But I am not doing it by sitting on a throne. I am going to do it by going to the cross. And this is earth-shattering. I am the Messiah, but I am going to a cross. It's not even just death, it's a cross. It is the most helpless and shameful way of dying. Preacher, you talk about this, I think, Wednesday. Maybe it was Sunday. I don't know. Either way, it was embarrassing. You know why it's embarrassing? Because you're talking about being stripped naked. Oh, no, the idea of stripped naked is embarrassing. It's hanging open. It's revealed. It's mocked and it's shamed. And he says, I'm the anointed one, and I'm going to be shamed and mocked. I'm going to be stripped. I'm not going to take power. I'm not going there to power over. I'm going to Jerusalem to surrender. I'm not going to rule, but I'm going there to serve. And I'm going to defeat evil by serving and surrender. And that made no sense. And not only did it make no sense, Peter didn't want it to make sense. And sometimes we don't want it to make sense because we want to rule and we want to control and we want to pound and we want to. We say, Brother Jeremy, that makes it sound so bad. No, that makes it sound like Peter, who had his agenda on how the word was supposed to happen and how this was supposed to work out, and he didn't want to change that agenda. And so he took his agenda to Christ and he expected to change Christ. So who would ever do that? Well, lots of times we expect God to work our way and do our thing. Let me show you the word here that just, Brother Ivy, this is the word in this verse in 31. Verse 31 is so important. I'm going to tell you there are three phrases right there. They're actually three words if you take Son of Man as a title. There are three words. These are just a huge three words. I'll tell you right now, all we're going to do is spend time looking at these three words. First is Son of Man. He's Son of Man. He accepts that title. But this word is a word that I have truthfully, since I was a kid, I don't get this. The Son of Man must suffer. Now, here's why I don't get the word must. As a kid, Donnie, as a kid, I heard that. And preacher could say whatever you want. My youth leader could say whatever he want. The deacon could say whatever he want. I'd say, yeah, that's right. I know that's right. That's biblical. But you want to know in my head what I struggled with? He's God. How can there be a must? Brother Kevin, I wanted to say, okay, he chose to come this way. He chose to go to the cross. He chose, all of which he did, right? But I don't like the idea that this is only, he must. Now, I know that he must because it says he must, but my brain just can't get around the fact that he must. Why must he suffer? Why does this have to be? He didn't just say, I'm going there and I'm going to die. He said, I have to die. It's absolutely necessary. I must suffer. Your life cannot be renewed. This world cannot be restored unless I suffer. Has anybody else ever struggled with that? I believe the Bible gives us three, let's say, lenses. They're lenses we can put on our glasses that help us see, that help us understand this. And I think we should be able to explain some of this. I think he wants us to reason together. For 2,000 years, this has been debated and talked about and written about. And I'm a little intimidated. If I skipped, this would be an idea I skipped. I wouldn't skip this passage. I'd be in this passage doing that, thou art the Christ. But I'd be skipping the must. Because this is a hard thing to understand. Why did Jesus have to suffer? I think the Bible gives this idea in three ways. One, so that we can receive pardon and forgiveness for sin. I think two, so that we can be transformed by his love. We can be enabled to love others. I think both of those tie directly to this. And I think three, that's where he destroyed the power of the world system. That's where it was abolished. That's where he made fun of it. That's where this idea of power over and control, and that's where it got destroyed. Right here, because that's not how he came and won. He won through surrender. He won through death. So, we're going to look first at this is how we receive pardon and forgiveness. I want to at least get through two of these. Quickly take a look at forgiveness. And here's a tough thing. Anytime you talk about forgiveness, it's hard to be quick. Why? Because we all need forgiveness. Please, we all need forgiveness. We offend each other, we hurt each other, we fail each other. If there's going to be relationship between any two people on this earth, forgiveness is needed. So when you talk about forgiveness, it's hard to be quick. But here this morning, we don't want to talk about just forgiveness. We want to talk about God. So we're going to move over this. We're going to move through it quickly. If you want more conversation about forgiveness, call the preacher and book a counseling session. Oh, call the preacher and book a counseling session with Brother Mike. Here. When anyone is done wrong, when someone does any one of us in here wrong, there is always a debt. A debt is created when a wrong is committed. Brother Kevin, the easiest way to see this, now it's not just here, but the easiest way to see that is we talk about monetary. Okay, you got your truck parked in the back? It's in the front? Okay, so Brother Kevin, you parked your car in the front. I'm going to go around and pick my wife up this morning because, I picked on her earlier, so now I have to pretend to be really nice so that we don't have to go out and spend, $50 a plate for dinner. Yeah. So I go around to pick her up, and somewhere in there we start having a conversation, and instead of paying attention to where I'm driving, I drive into the side of your truck. Now you know what happens? Either you pay or I pay because damage was done. Now you say, oh, wait a minute, the person who likes to argue. That's not necessarily right. Neither one of you could pay. He could just leave it damaged. But then the loss of value is to you. You still pay. I win. That's what, in any wrong, a debt is created. It's easily seen in monetary, but it could be in an opportunity, in reputation. If somebody hurts you, that hurt is there. It's wrong. It's there. There's a debt created. Sometimes it limits you. In any injustice, it gets to the place where here's the truth. You hit my truck, you owe me. You damaged my reputation, you owe me. There's a point where it brings up the opportunity for vengeance. Now, in pay, it's easy. It's money. But what about it's not pay? What about it's limited something? You know what? You said something about me, and for 20 years, I'm limited in my influence. Inside of me, there's something that says, that's not right. You did me wrong. I have a right to what? I seek justice, which means somebody has to pay, you or me. Now, forgiveness says, I'll pay. Forgiveness says, I'll pay. Junior, you say, well, that vengeance is tough. Just forgive. Just forgive. The easiest words that roll off of somebody else's mouth. But not easy if you're the one living it. Because this is what it sounds like if you're the one living it. Here we go. Husband and wife. Guess who's not here? Guess who's the bad guy? Look at this. You tell him already. Already she wants to defend him. I haven't even said anything. She's trying to protect him. What a good wife. Just makes me want to be meaner. Husband offends wife. Wife has to forgive him, right? But it becomes a point, especially about how the husband responds, where it can just become assumptive. It can become hurtful. You can almost start to feel gullible because he just keeps doing it again and again and again and again. I just have to keep carrying the cost, and I just have to let it go, and I just have to. It seems like, well, just forgive, or just listen to your son. He's right. If you don't forgive, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Easy for you to say. But she just keeps feeling more used and more abused and more gullible and more and more and more. But at some point, either he pays or you pay. That's marriage counseling, not probably 201. Somebody has to pay. Hold on to it. Let it go. Understand if you're the husband and she has to keep letting it go, understand what you're doing there too. 301. So this makes sense to us. In the human realm, forgiveness always involves suffering. The only way to right a wrong, however, is to forgive. Brother Wayne, no, it's not. You give me $10,000, I'll forget anything. Okay. Well, what's going to happen here? I give you $10,000. Now I'm out $10,000. You know what that just did? That just perpetuated this cycle. Guess who feels wrong now? The only way to restore this is to forgive, which means you carry the cost. Does that make sense? Oh, I said I was going to do. Miss Lorraine, does that make sense? Okay, if that makes sense in the human realm, why do we not expect it to make sense? God says I have to come and I'm going to forgive you, and I'm going to pardon you. There's a cost that has to be paid. There's a cost that has to be paid, and you can't pay it. It's an eternal cost. And it requires more than you have, because it requires perfection. And Justin, he came with the sole reason of forgiving us. He came to pay that cost. I must suffer. Either you pay the cost or he pays it. Either we endure the pain or he does. The only way we can be restored is if Christ pays our penalty. Which, brother, have you ready? Amen, brother. That's amazing. Thank you, Lord. But you know what that does in me? Why would he do that? Which brings us to the second thing. That we get to, why? Why would he do that? Well, because he loves us. That's why. That's why. I'm going to read this because it's quicker for me to read it than if I tried to say it myself. And I marked out the parts that I would end up going on and on and on. This is from a book titled Jesus is the King. It's from a chapter called The Phenomenology of Love. I typed it into Google to make sure it said it right. The phenomenology of love. All human beings, even people from childhood who were deprived of love, know the difference between false and true love, fake and authentic love. We could argue with that if you want to, but just let me go on. Here's the difference. In false love, your aim is to use the other person to fulfill your happiness. Your love is conditional. You give it only as long as the person is affirming to you and meeting your needs. And it is really not vulnerable. You hold back so that you can cut your losses if necessary. But in a true love, your aim is to spend yourself and use yourself for the happiness of the other, because your greatest joy is that the other is having joy. Our real problem is that nobody is actually fully capable of giving true love. It's talking about 100%. We want it desperately, but we can't give it. And if it's no one, then no one can give it, then no one can receive it. We're stuck in this void. We can't give. He's not saying that we can't give any kind of real love at all, but nobody is fully capable of true love. All of our love is somewhat fake. How so? Because we need to be loved like we need air and water. That means there's a certain mercenary quality to our relationship. We look for people whose love would really affirm us. We invest our love where we know we'll get good return. Of course, when we do that, our love is conditional and non-vulnerable. Because we're not loving the person simply for himself or herself. We're loving the person partly, some measure, for the love we're getting in return. Obviously, there are healthy people and unhealthy people, and I'll say, certainly there's a spectrum here. Okay, there's a spectrum where it resides. An abuser is all the way this way. Okay, but there's not a person all the way this way. Nobody can give anyone else the kind or amount of love they're starved for. In the end, we're all alike, groping for true love and incapable of fully giving it. What we need is someone to love us who doesn't need us at all. We need someone who loves us radically, unconditionally, and vulnerable. We need someone to love us just for us, just because they love us. If we could receive that kind of love, maybe that would assure us of our own value, give us this security, and fill us up to the point that we could love others. Who can give a love like this with no need? Very short. It simply says we're all starving for love. We're starving for love, and starving people can't give. Well, you have nothing to give. We need someone to love us, just for us. Someone who doesn't need us at all. Who could do this? Brother Hank, you might remember these words. The one who left the Father's throne above, emptied himself of all but love, bled for Adam's helpless race, the one who died for me, the one who caused this pain. Even though I was long and my spirit was imprisoned, now, because he came, the anointed one, because he went, because he offered himself, because he rose again. No condemnation. Clothed in righteousness divine, bold, I approach the eternal throne. I'm loved in his amazing love. Jesus loved us so that we could love him and that we could love others. His love is unconditional. While we were yet sinners, while we were yet on the other team, while we were the enemy, it's sacrificial. Why did he have to suffer? Because he had to pay the price for our pardon. Because it's in the receiving of his love. We love him, why? It's in the receiving of his love that enables us to love him back and to love each other. And then third, I think it is in his suffering that the power of the world is broken. Eric, did I ask you Colossians 2:15? And having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it. What in the world does that mean? Verse 31, and he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected of the elders and of the chief priests and the scribes and be killed and after 3 days rise again. Okay. He says, I am going to go to Jerusalem. You're right. I am the Messiah. I am the anointed one. But I'm going to be rejected by rulers and priests and scribes. You know, the rightful authority that should be standing for justice, I am going to be rejected by them. They're corrupt. They're going to perpetrate against me this coup. There's injustice is coming against me by those who are supposed to protect it. That's what they stand for. He was exploited. He was attacked. You really could argue that he was lynched. There's no trial. There's no law. He said, I have experienced all of humans' incorrupt justice. Jesus experienced it all. And in his suffering, his death, and his resurrection, he made a mockery of it. Now, how does that happen? 8 minutes. Notice, Brother Kevin, notice when he begins to say this, Peter rebukes him. Right? Peter. Jesus turns to Peter and says, Satan. Now, does that mean he's foaming at the mouth? And, it means something. I think it means this. Peter, you're siding with human power. What do you mean? Well, Peter's problem was the Messiah is supposed to go to Jerusalem. The Messiah is supposed to rule and reign. He's supposed to sit on the throne in power. He's supposed to rule just like we think the world works. And what Jesus is saying, that's not how the world's going to work. I'm going to take all those things, all those ways you think the world works, the power and the influence and the control and all that stuff that you think, I'm going there and I'm going to turn it all upside down. I'm going to show you that is not the way to live life. Which is, by the way, what he said in his very first Sermon on the Mount. It's what the whole thing says. I'm going to flip it all upside down. You think, but I say. Blessed are the broken and the poor and the mourning, the ones you cast off, the emhaharats, the ones that you count for nothing. I'm going to go and I'm going to turn it all upside down. And what Peter is fighting for, no, 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 sit on the throne. Satan, you're standing for and calling for and defending and wanting the way of the world. Which is very scary to me, Brother Kevin, because sometimes you know what I want to do? I want to crush them. I want to embarrass them. I want to call them out. But Brucci, that's enough confession. I look bad enough. Well, really what I would say is we look bad enough. We're right in there with Peter. Jesus says, I'm going to win through submission. My power and influence are going to come through obedient service. I will get glory by giving and leaving and emptying. You see, all this world's way, power and privilege and status and money, it's exposed, it's defeated, it's destroyed. That's why I had to go and suffer. Okay, okay. Well, just think, how does the world work? It controls through fear. It controls through fear. Okay? Rob, don't do it right, and money. Don't do it right, and acceptance. I'll mock and I'll enslave and it works through fear. And the ultimate fear is death. And we can go through all of the fear that the world offers. And if we think about it, the cross, the gospel, the death, the burial, and the resurrection have an answer to every bit of it. You know how much money means to me? Okay, I live in a world, I pay the bills. It doesn't make me who I am. No amount of money makes me good or bad or... Money's a tool I use, and I use well or I use poorly, I learn. You know, the worst the world can do is kill me. The worst. And you know, the resurrection says, if you kill me, life gets better. What fear does it have left? When he went to the cross, he destroyed the way of the world. We just have to think about it. Which is why the most oft-given command in the Bible, number one, nothing comes close. Fear not. Fear not, fear not, fear not, fear not, fear not. I am the king, but on a cross. That's the first half. Next, and if you're going to follow me, you've got one too. Now, I got 3 minutes, so we're going to look at one verse, and I'm going to read a little passage by C.S. Lewis. It comes from the last 2 pages of the book, Mere Christianity. It is his conclusion, and it really is about these verses right here. Verse 34. And when he had called the people unto him with his disciples also, he said unto them, whosoever will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross. There's a cross for you too if you're going to follow me. And follow me. Verse 35. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it. But whosoever shall lose his life for my sake and the gospel's, I love that he threw the word gospel in there. Brother Brucci, it makes it make more sense to me. The same shall save it. If you lose it, you save it. How does this? Well, first, this is one of those places. If you look at the word, what are we talking about when we talk about life? Okay, it's the Greek word psyche. Okay, and it is talking about our identity and our selfhood. You know, how we evaluate who we are. And what he is saying is not lose your individuality, but he's saying don't build your identity on the things of the world. Now, how do you get that? Because what does he go? If I gain the whole world and lose his soul. Your identity can't be built on this world. If there's anything you can gain or acquire or achieve to make you somebody, to make you happy, to make you secure, And every society has something, every place, for thousands of years it was, you have to have a family, you have to have children. Nothing wrong with that. But that is not your identity. If it becomes your identity, it's an idol. See, career, education, anything that we have to gain or perform in order to have value. He didn't just come to say, okay, this is who you were. Let me change the things you now have to do. You'll get your value from doing different things. It's not about what you do. It's not about how you perform. And sometimes that's how we teach Christianity. As long as you do, you'll be good. It's not about do. It's about Him. Anytime there's anything we can gain to make us okay, we can lose that thing and then we're not okay. That's why we have words like die and put off and mortify daily. Because we're supposed to put on Him. We are forgiven. We are loved. We are betrothed. That never changes. That is our value. Because that is our value, we do what we do. We do not do what we do to have value. Pivotal passage, and I'm out of time. Brother Ivy, we close in a word of prayer this morning.
Father, thank you for this time, Lord. Thank you for the hour we spent with Brother Jeremy.